Hello, this is Geeks Assembled, and we are here again for another podcast this week because of The Crown, because of the Windsors. I'm a little obsessed. It's true. The Queen and the top job in the nation is important to, especially to us in the U.S. of A. Because we see this monarchy that has survived longer than virtually anything around, and we're curious and obsessed. Well, I'm obsessed. uh, anyway, I have a few people here, and Geeks Assembled is who we're doing this for. Just laying it out there, we're doing this for Geeks Assembled. And The Crown is 4 seasons in, and we have shifted lead actresses from Claire Foy to Olivia Colman, and pretty amazing stuff. Uh, and with me, I've got three guys. And what do you want to talk about? Let's talk about the first 3 seasons, and then we'll dig into the fourth season. What was your impression of Claire Foy, Matt Smith, and John Lithgow as Winston Churchill, etc., etc. Um, and let's go. Let's start with Tim. What's your first opening thoughts about this?
I really enjoy this show. Let's see. I kind of binged the first 3 seasons about a year and a half ago
Okay.
because I didn't catch it when it was on its first run, and some of my friends kept talking about it a lot, and I said, well, I really need to catch up on that when I get a chance. And it is a very well made show. I thought the it was a wise choice in a way to switch actors because they really are covering a whole lot of a whole lot of history here. So I mean, it's good that they do. I mean, you would think you'd get stuck on one actor or two actors playing the part, and that would be so it might have been a risk to shift the actors, but they planned it all out ahead of time, so it all works out very well. One thing I would tell you that I felt going into this series is that those earlier series seemed like you're learning a lot about history. Even though it's tweaked a bit. I mean, it's drama, it's dramatized. But when you get to as we got to this series, it's about the 80s in a way, and that's the time that we kind of lived through. I know some of us have, and so you kind of saw these events unfold as you were growing up through them, which is it gives you a different. I mean, in other words, you're seeing history that you know more about, other than previous history going back to whenever it was that Elizabeth became queen. But yeah, I think it's a very well made program. It's got an excellent cast. It's another thing that makes it fun is the fact that the cast does shift from series to series, and so sometimes you'll just have a guest star, somebody that's a holdover from the previous series, like we did this year, for just one episode or so, and then uh, other times you have this cast. Now this cast is going to be gone whenever the show comes back. Now we're going to have a new queen and a new cast of characters, so it should be interesting. This I think is probably this series 4 is probably one of the more notable series, and I'm guessing we'll get into that as we go on.
Yep. Jake, what's your thoughts on the first 3 seasons?
Well, I'm in a little bit of a similar boat to Tim, but I was introduced to it by my nan, and I started with season 3, and I thought, oh, better watch the first two just in case I don't know what's going on. And when I tell you, I must have binged 3 seasons all at once because I was so glued to what I was watching. I honestly think it's a very good show. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's bollocks. It's not telling the truth. It's painting the royals in a bad light." I'm like, when have the royals ever really been painted in a good light? Let's be honest. And it never says that this is based on a true story at the beginning. Never has it said that. So I don't know what the uproar is about. But yeah, for me personally, I much prefer the Olivia Colman cast to the Claire Foy cast. I think that they're a mixed match of well-known actors and not very well-known actors. And I like that because they're all so talented. But with season 1, I did very much enjoy it. I was very surprised how much I enjoyed Matt Smith's portrayal of Prince Philip. considering as a Doctor Who fan, I never liked him in Doctor Who. But I really enjoyed him in The Crown, and he really showed his levels of acting ability in that show. And the bloke who played Winston Churchill, props to him. He was the highlight of the first season, 100%. And yes, I did shed a little tear when I rewatched season 3 because I enjoyed his character so much, and he has got him all down to a T. They're all so well researched in their mannerisms, especially the lady who plays Princess Diana. I'll get onto it when we get to that bit. But yeah, all in all, a very good show. If you like historical stuff with a little bit of twisted in it, you know, little bit of creative license, we shall call it, then it's a very good show to get an idea what the royal family are actually like. Arsehole.
I agree. And so we'll move over to Connor. What do you think of the first three?
Um, I kind of knew about it from the first it came out, but I didn't watch it for about a year or two. So I kind of watched season 1 and 2 together, pretty much. So I I found with season 1 and 2 in particular, I loved the cast. I think that actually this might be the one drama on TV that is or streaming that is flawlessly cast. Every part is absolutely perfect. You couldn't cast better. But I found some of I found I was less. I'm a bit like Jake. I found the Coleman era more kind of intriguing. The highlight for me, though, which is quite bizarre, is not in the Coleman. Well, it is kind of in the Coleman. No, actually, it's one of the highlights for me is Vanessa Kirby, who played Princess Margaret in the first two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She's fantastic. She's the best of the Foy lot. Olivia Colman's cast, though, is just so well rounded. She's perfect as the Queen for the time period that she's portraying. Because I think what you've got to remember is that they are two very different queens. Because Claire Foy is portraying a queen in a time where politically and publicly they're probably more favoured. They do go within the Foy era. There is a few up and downs. For example, the smog episode and stuff like that. But Coleman's era, the 70s and the 80s, and the back end of the 60s, she's actually portraying a time where the Queen wasn't as well liked as you probably think she was. Particularly of note is the Aberfan episode,
Yes.
which is probably in the top 5 episode of the entire show, where and it's based on a real event where the Welsh town of the mining town of Aberfan is struck by a terrible tragedy where there's like a landslip of coal waste and stuff like that, mining waste, and it destroys a school and pretty much most of the village and kills 22 kids amongst others. Yeah. And she, as is historically accurate, doesn't visit there for I think it's 14 days. And after that, the press absolutely slaughtered her for being uncaring, cold, stoic. And I think one of the things I really love about the Coleman era in particular, that you never really get in the Foy era, is the relationships are just so dramatic. The relationship between the Queen and Charles. I think that most people would think that the Queen actually likes Charles, but if you actually watch the relationship, and apparently this is also historically accurate on a very kind of simple basis level, the Queen has a lot of kind of resentment for Charles. He's not the perfect child. Her favorite child, as is demonstrated in season 4, is actually probably the worst of the lot, Prince Andrew. So it's kind of, it's a really, I find the dynamics in the relationship as well as the cast in Coleman's era to be more kind of worthy of drama than the Foy era. The Foy era is kind of like that typical prestige royal
They were
drama.
children then as well. Those characters were children then, so they were less dramatic.
Yeah,
Purpose,
yeah. So I think the Foy era can be described as a prestige royal drama, whereas I think the Coleman era is quite kitchen sink family drama, and I think that's the dynamic I prefer the most, which I think suits the show more. Peter Morgan is a fantastic writer. I'm aware of some of his stuff like Austin Nixon.
Is that also not because though over the course of time the crown or the royals lost more and more power to the government they had set up? I mean, or is that not really the case?
I mean, when we get onto season 4, I think pretty much the entire series is kind of pivoted on this idea that it's government versus crown, because, I mean, in comes Margaret Thatcher, and the Queen's kind of almost playing second fiddle, because suddenly there's another woman that is the most powerful woman in the country,
and she actively fought against what Margaret Thatcher was trying to do because of the coldness of Thatcherism, the brutal nature of Thatcherism.
Yeah, and I think famously, as we'll go into season 4, but I would like to just quickly mention it. That episode about the South Africa sanctions is probably the most notable case of Thatcher versus the Queen.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that is historically accurate. That's what actually happened. I think it goes out of its way to portray Thatcher as being anti-royal. She's not. She was actually very much a royalist. But that the events in that episode did actually happen. So I think
she may have been a royalist, but she was unwilling to go to work for the people. She had her agenda, and it was
No, in her mind it was for the people though. I mean, in her mind she thought she was doing what was best for the country, but I mean she just had a tight fist. I mean, so she was it was her way or no way at all in a lot of ways. I think that's what the way they portrayed it. And I think at the end of the series the Queen did have to concede that you did improve this country quite a bit in your time, which is why that you have that last scene. But on the other hand, it's always going to be debatable as to whether or not the politics were good or effective. So
I do think one of the things that this show does so well, and what I do love about it, is that it's not really just about the crown. It does explore the Queen's relationship with the politicians. You have the audience
and the press. The press also, they create all kinds of havoc like they always do.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting, not just for the Thatcher kind of episodes, but to see her sit down with church.
Yeah, before in the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, the press was really like there in support of royalty and in support of the Queen. Even the documentary that they were making was done with altruistic, thoughts, but it was apparently a miserable failure. I looked for it, but the actions of the press were there in support. By the 80s,
yeah,
it wasn't that way anymore.
I do think that's why Coleman's era of the show, again, to just go back to the early point, is more supported by drama than Foy's is, because Foy's portraying, as I said, the Queen in more favourable times for her personally.
Yeah.
For the character personally.
Plus, she's on a steep learning curve. She did take over as a young lady, and you see that by the end of the first couple of series with Foy, she has become a bit hardened because it's a job that you can't be fair to everybody. You know what I mean? She can't please everybody. She never will be able to. She's the Queen, so that she has that relationship with her sister and her husband. They both have to learn the hard way that she's not theirs really. She belongs to the nation.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's my opening thoughts. Sorry for rambling on.
Yeah. So, just open discussion now about the first three. Let's talk about Matt Smith if you wanted to. I personally, uh, the first season, I struggled with his portrayal of Philip, but by the time that they got to the point of talking about the his thing in Scotland, his school in Scotland, and how he was sort of it was ugly and horrible to him. At that point, he changed. I could suddenly see Prince Philip in Matt Smith, and then this new guy right here, he does a great job as Prince Philip in the proceeding, and and we could talk about.
Well, I think the Smith character. I mean, I thought Smith was effective because he's playing a young man who really has to learn his way around this, and he realizes pretty quickly in, I think, for the first series, he doesn't have a lot of power, and he can't act like a normal husband. He always has to bend his will to her because, like it or not, she's in charge, and that's a hard lesson for a young man to learn. I think sometimes. I think they did that very effectively with Smith.
I think there's a lot of parallels as well between Philip and Diana, in that Philip didn't like being a part of that household at first. He learned to kind of have to live with the status quo of it all. Diana, on the other hand, completely just rebelled against it. And I mean, whether you're a conspiracy theorist or not, whether that eventually led up to, what happened with Diana or not is, up for discussion. But yeah, it's like Philip, weirdly, because Philip's kind of the most headstrong of the royals, he conceded to the power of the crown. Diana didn't. Diana just completely.
And
I love that scene, the dinner scene in season 4, where it's Helena Bonham Carter, the Queen's mother, and the Queen, and they're talking about whether Diana will bend or break. It ends up that she breaks, unfortunately.
But Philip did try to help her too. You can see how his character has grown because he's helping somebody that now feels like he did when he was a young man. So I mean,
Yeah.
it kind of comes full circle for his character that he's trying to help this young woman who's having a hard time fitting into the family. And nowhere is that better represented in the last scene of the series when she's standing to the side when they're taking a picture and she's just, I'm not even part of this thing really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think, picking up briefly on that scene Tim just mentioned, I do think it has a really eerie foreshadowing as well to her death, because obviously, as we know, a photographer flashed his camera, which caused the people to crash, and seeing all the lights flash in her face. That's sort of, that's a bit of eerie foreshadowing. But I can't really talk much about season 1 and 2 because I connected more with season 3 as a series, and I think out of all the cast in season 3, I felt like Helena Bonham Carter stole the show. She was my favourite of season 3. I think she did a great job as Princess Margaret, and I think even in this new series, she still kept that level. Obviously, because they brought new people in, sort of overshadowed her a little bit. But yeah,
I think she's always great. I think you're right though. I think this series they didn't have a whole lot of story for her, so she's pretty much just there to be snarky.
Yeah,
and which is fine. That's pretty much how that character should be.
She has the one episode, doesn't she, where it kind of I think it illustrates why Margaret probably ended up the way she did.
The Margaretology episode.
Yeah, where she finds out about the children that are in her
cousins.
Her cousins that are in the mental asylum.
That's a great episode. That's probably my favorite series.
And it kind of, knowing what happened to, and the way that Margaret was a wild child in real life, and in this show, she drinks, she smokes, she self-destructs more than any of the other royals. And
it's a very hard job that she has being the Queen's sister. Again, she's never going to have the power. She's always going to be like a hanger on, and that really bugs her because she wants to be an artistic, creative person, but she's never going to be anything but the queen's younger sister. And I think they kind of reflected that also in Charles's relationship to his younger brother. When he just says that you're just a nothing. I mean, I'm going to be the king one day. You're not going to be anything. So I mean, that's.
I mean, I thought the funniest parts of season 4 was the way that they wrote Prince Andrew. I felt like it was a pointed dig because of like what we've come to know now, but he's a proper wanker. He really is. He's
Most of them are, with the exception of Anne and Margaret.
Well, I do think that they're fair to the royals in this, and yeah they're going to throw in some gossip. They're not. I do think the queen never comes off looking bad, regardless of her. Even if she's wrong about something, she doesn't come off as looking bad. She's always trying to do the best she can. You're right about some of the other characters, though. He does look like a wanker, and then Charles comes off looking really cruddy in this particular series.
I do think season 4 puts the boot in the royals a bit more than the other seasons did, because it like most of them come off looking a lot worse than you started off the season. I mean, the 2 episodes I can think of is episode 2 and 3, where the Balmoral test, and the one where Diana's kind of first introduced into the household, and when she gets the curtsy wrong and Margaret chastises her about it. That's really mortifying to watch. And the fact that, you know, Margaret Thatcher is probably the most divisive political figure in UK history, and you end up.
But wasn't Lord Mountbatten also really well played? This.
Oh yeah, Charles Dance was great.
Wasn't he? Didn't he try to take over from Harold Wilson back a while?
There was a coup with the
bankers.
Yeah, with the Bank of England at one point. Mountbatten. Yeah, I do like Charles Dance in it. But he was. Yeah, I think Mountbatten is just kind of one of them. He's a proper royal. Like he takes himself too seriously. I didn't like how they kind of killed him off, and then kind of put it under the carpet almost.
Wasn't that historically accurate?
They did that with a lot of stuff this season. They missed out on some really important bits, especially with Margaret Thatcher. They could have touched upon, like the Brighton '82 terrorist attack that nearly killed her, the whole Falklands Wars, like the Belgrano, all that, and they completely missed it all out. And I do wish they'd have sort of fleshed her as much as Gillian Anderson stole this season. I do wish they did more with Margaret. More of the struggles she dealt with, because it seemed a little bit lackluster this season with what they actually did have her do, and I wish we'd have had some of the more grittier attempts in her life and how brutal she really could have got.
I would disagree with you a little bit, because I thought they did a pretty good job. You really have 2 main stories this series, and they did a good job of intertwining them, and because they really have nothing to do with each other. The saga of Margaret Thatcher has really nothing to do with the saga of Diana. They're 2 separate elements that go throughout this particular period in history, and with only 10 episodes to play with, I think they did a pretty good job of juggling it.
Yeah,
because you never really got bored.
Yeah, I think as well, and I think Gillian Anderson in an interview put it quite well. You're telling this story through the prism of the crown, so you can't really go into Thatcher's politics because the crown is completely separate from that. But I did think that the Michael Fagan episode about the intruder kind of did touch upon her politics quite well. And it didn't, I would love her. I'd love, and I said this after I watched that episode, I would love a spin-off of this show that does go into the prime ministers, because there's a lot of stories there as well you can tell, and how it influences the society around them. Unfortunately, you can't really do it in the Crown because it's not the Crown's business, really.
Right, but there's other programs that have been made over the years that cover these things. I mean, for example, there's plenty of documentaries about the Iron Lady. So I mean, and there's dramatizations as well. So
yeah, there's even a film with Meryl Streep which kind of goes into politics a bit more.
Yeah, that was a really beautiful movie, actually. So I really thought that the 3rd season ended strongly, and by that point I was unable to stop watching. I watched uh, I watched the third season to get ready for the fourth season release, and because it was so intoxicating, I went back and watched some of the stuff in the first and the second season again. I really I really love the way that Olivia Colman plays Her Majesty. She's got chops, she's got grace, she's got that beautiful that beautiful glow. You know, Olivia Colman is basically royalty to me. I mean, she did such an amazing job in Broadchurch, and then she did, Doctor Who, and she's just a fantastic actress, really fantastic actress.
To be
And
fair, it was a one-day walk-on in Doctor Who, but
oh,
Yeah,
it's all right. That's where I first saw her, heard her, whatever. Um, and your first vision of Olivia Colman is still your best. I don't know. I'm just saying, she's fantastic, and so like the the stuff that she brings into like Elizabeth's the what what Elizabeth does, how she presents herself, you know, even that sort of dour, she nails it. Anyway,
no, the cast is amazing all around. I think you're right. She's a very good actress, and this is she's a lady that has come to, in the last half decade or decade or so. She's really put herself out there. She's in a lot of things, and she's a very versatile actress. I mean,
yeah,
this is her time, and so I think it's great that you get these guys, these top notch actors in here, and they know they've got a 2 year window, and that's all they're going to do, and it's going to move on to somebody else, and that's pretty cool that they're willing to do that. I mean,
yeah,
in other words, there's no star in this show. It's just the story.
yeah, and it is an addictive story.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
Oh
it
my
is a
gosh.
good story. Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff in it. That there's political stuff. There's like romance. There's most genres, most kind of genres that you can realistically tell in a drama. Um, Not anything like horror or anything, but I do like how it tells different kind of stories. I mean, pretty much season 4 was an entire romance story. In many ways, it was probably the most romantic, in whatever way you want to perceive it, whether a good way or a bad way. Um, but yeah, I think, as I said, the cast is flawless, and I do think it. I agree with I think the format's fantastic. I do like that there's 2 seasons of one um, group of actors and then 2 more of another, because um, you're portraying changing times, and I don't think Claire Foy would be able to play the Queen in the age that she was in the 60s, 70s, and 80s like Olivia Colman would be able to. So I think the fact that you have, and by that token, I don't think Olivia Colman would be able to portray the Queen in the 90s and early noughties like Imelda Staunton might be able to.
Imelda Staunton is the next QE2, right?
Yeah, she is. Yeah, and Jonathan Pryce is Prince Philip. So
Oh, Jonathan
that should be
Price.
interesting.
Well, they've moved from relative unknowns to this
yeah,
rather
that has been one thing I've noticed.
rather powerful cast.
Yeah, I think season 1 and 2 was full of, apart from maybe, I think John Lithgow was probably the most famous name of the first
Correct.
2 seasons.
And
Um,
Matt Smith.
and Matt Smith was, yeah. But I think, yeah, 3 and 4, apart from the kind of younger royals, every name is a big name. Even Tobias Menzies, who's been in loads of, is probably more well known than Josh O'Connor and Erin Doherty. So it's kind of, I do like how they have shifted more to more well-known actors as well. I do like that. because it just gives you so much potential to have. It's like the most loaded cast list ever, really. Every role is just a famous actor.
It's interesting. You have to wonder where they're going to end it at this point, because you've got 2 series left that are going to cover at least what 10, 15 years,
Yeah.
and it's still an ongoing story at this point. So it'll be interesting to see where they decide to end it, or or if the as events go by, will they have a follow up later or something? Who knows?
I would like to see them touch upon the Tony Blair years and get Michael Sheen back, as Peter Morgan has repeatedly worked with Michael Sheen as Tony Blair. But I'm suspecting it might end with Diana's death, which
No, not for two series. I would think they would do that in the first series, possibly. Remember, they're doing 2 more, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I think season 6 is going to be slight, because there wasn't originally going to be a season 6. I think it's going to be slightly shortened, so it might be like 6 episodes, and I think they might end because a season covers a decade or thereabouts.
Yeah.
So I
So
think
Diana would end her story would end at some point in the next series, I would guess. I can't see them dragging it out into the 6th series if there is one.
I think it really depends how they split it, because I don't think that you can go beyond 2000 really without having a full length 6th season, and I don't think they want that. So
I would think Blair's story would be interesting as well. I mean, there's all that business with the wars and stuff that he got him involved in. So, and I think that ruined his
And
career in a lot of ways.
that's when Harry and William both serve in the military.
yeah,
They get their wings or their.
Yeah, I'm guessing they would want to tell their story in the last series as well, because they're the current crop. So
I think one of the things you run the risk of, though, is that the Royals haven't really done much in the last 20 years.
I have another theory how I'd want the Crown to end, because for the whole season the Queen's had her sister and like mum to like ask for advice and rely on in a kind of way. So I hope they finish it in the early 2000s when she loses both her mum and her sister. So it's just the Queen, and it's like a turning point for her character. Then like she hasn't got her sister or mum to rely on anymore. It's just her and Philip basically. And obviously, like now half her family's gone. How do you cope with that a little bit?
That
I see your point, but I kind of think that she never really relied on her sister's opinion of anything. Really, to be fair.
Yeah, I think she didn't really ever listen to Margaret. They could end it on, I think, was it the Silver Jubilee? I think that, I'm trying to think what year that is. I'm actually going to search it, because I think it was.
They could do us all a favor and end it with the execution of Meghan Markle.
Yeah, you could, yeah.
Megan's cool.
Okay.
Oh,
Anyway, the thing that this I wanted to get to is, what are your feelings about season 4 now? Only season 4.
only season 4. This is probably a bit easy to talk about. I think it's the best season, personally. I think it has like the best characters. It's the best era. Gillian Anderson, as Jake said, steals it. And I love Emma Corrin as Diana. I think if anyone's going to win awards for it, it's going to be them two, because
I agree.
they both stole it. Emma Corrin is a fantastic actress.
Yeah.
Never heard of her. I don't even think she's relatively known.
It's amazing how she transforms. Have you seen her outside of her costume? She doesn't look a bit like Diana.
Yeah,
No.
and now she does, and it's just, and she does in the show. If you kind of look at Diana on a photo, and Emma Corrin, it's just unbelievable. I think she's probably the show never really goes for complete lookalikes, but I think Emma Corrin is about as closest to a Diana lookalike as you're ever going to get.
Yeah, she
Even
did.
the way she looks at their eyes and the way she smiles, like the spitting image of Diana. Because after
Mhm.
I watched the interview with her and Charles, and Charles goes, "Oh, whatever love is," and it's basically like polar. It's like a clone. They've cloned her and stuck her in the crown. It's a great performance, and I'm so glad they touched upon their mental health issues, because I think that's really important in the show, because no matter what family you're in, you could still go through these issues, and she had a fucking horrible time, and Prince Charles is a twat. I was so angry, so upset, and then he went off with that trollop who's going to be the queen, unfortunately, but hey ho.
She got the voice perfect as well. If you watch any Diana interview, that voice
I,
is spot on.
I think that she comes across as tragic already. I mean, because
Yeah.
she's really gotten in over her head into this family, and even she even begs the queen to, to be her family, and the queen
Well,
just kind of
hug
like
me.
balks at a hug. You know, she's not. I don't do that.
And then
So,
she goes and tells the rest of the family she hugged me, and they're like, "Oh, oh, how horrible for you."
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
That scene made me gasp a little bit when she jumped up.
Dysfunction,
I was like,
function.
I'm
I
like,
mean, I never in my lifetime thought, and I'm not a hater of Margaret Thatcher, but I've never in my lifetime thought I would hear some people that I have heard say uh, that they felt sympathy for Margaret Thatcher in that second episode in Balmoral, where she's having to play that game. They're a bunch of elitist twats. They complete. I mean, luckily Thatcher is probably the last person you're going to get one over in that sense.
I think that they were trying to show that the difference in approach too, to because they're both in charge of the country in a lot of ways, and Thatcher's all business, you know, all work, no play, and
Yeah,
she's being forced to spend a whole weekend out, you know, on vacation with a family she knows nothing about, has nothing wants nothing to do with in a lot of ways. I think she did come across as sympathetic.
She
So
did. And
yeah,
I thought I'd never say
pick,
that.
picking up with what you said, yes, you have a sympathetic feeling towards her, but at the same time, they're still showing her as a bit of a bitch, because she could be a really horrible person, and I think they showed both sides incredibly well, because they weren't doing it as oh, she's a great person, because she wasn't really. She was very nasty. She wasn't the nicest person towards like foreigners, homosexuals, the poor. And I think they did a good job at showing both sides to her, not just a bias. Oh, feel sorry for her sort of thing.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that yeah,
true
I think
too.
that she came across as I mean, the real Thatcher is was a bit of somebody that came along and said, you know, no more fun and games. Let's nose to the grindstone. Let's get this country back together. Uh, and a lot of people didn't like that. So I mean, this show manages to present that there's also another side to her, which a lot of people forget. And by the last episode, I think you do kind of feel sorry for her because she got pushed aside by her own party because they were tired of her tight fist. I mean, so they were like, out you go. And
Yeah,
I
I
think it
thought
was
when she found out that she was on her way out, that was an amazing scene in the last episode. Those little boys, she had absolute contempt
yeah.
of everyone around her at
Yep.
that point, and it was just so good to see. I think Gillian Anderson nailed her, absolutely nailed
Yep.
her. But yeah, I think this was the strongest season, just because it kind of. I do like how it put the boot in the Royals. I'm not a royalist. I don't really like the Royals, and I think it did kind of show the true colours, especially Charles. Charles is a despicable human being.
The thing,
I
the
don't
thing.
want him as
Sorry,
king.
go ahead.
I just don't want him as king, to be honest. And I
I
think
don't think you'll ever will. I was just gonna say, I think he's a guy that has grown up knowing, in spite of the, you know, and I'm not sure if you know, again, they use a lot of dramatic license in this thing, but the way he treated his brother was atrocious, and the way he treated Diana was even worse. But this is a guy that's grown up knowing he's never going to be king, and if and when the time does come, he's probably just going to give it to his son. He'd probably just say, you know, let him have it because he's going to be so old that it's not going to be much point. I mean, I would think that that's what he would do. Plus his son the heir is a lot more popular than he is, more popular than he'll ever be. And
Well,
one of the reasons,
it's sort of a trope of British of British women, that British women live forever and British men die a sort of a younger,
well,
less
that's
ignoble death.
my point is that longevity obviously
Story.
runs in his wife's family. I mean, look at her mother, the Queen Mother. How long did she live to be? Like 98 or something. So I
Yeah,
mean,
she's old. Yeah, yeah.
so I mean, again, the writing was on the wall when he was still a young man, probably around this time in this series when he's got. Like, I don't think she's ever going to go. I mean, unless something happens, you know, he's never going to be king anyway.
No, I would hope not, because I think Camilla is an illegitimate queen as well.
And even at this point, they don't have a lot of power anyway. They're basically just show ponies. I mean, they
yeah,
show up and
tourist attraction.
yeah.
Yeah, they don't do much.
So, what did you think of the actress who played Camilla?
I know
Fine.
it's Emerald Fennell. I know her for like more writing. She's good, to be honest. I think she's.
I think that they made her sympathetic as well in a way. They didn't have her come across as spiteful or mean. She just wanted somebody that, I mean, the character, the real life person, is somebody that's married to somebody else and has a long affair with the queen. I mean the prince. So
Yeah, I think it's more Charles in the driving seat in that relationship. But way back when in the 80s and stuff, I think it was him that wanted it more, to be an official thing. Then Camilla did. 'Cause I think there was a few instances I remember where Camilla kind of tried to push him to kind of do the right thing and marry and love Diana, but he just never could.
Well, I don't think that she really wanted her to love Diana. Otherwise, why would they have gotten together at that party and squared off so significantly?
Yeah, that's true. I think
I mean,
Camilla.
that may have been dramatized. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was a lot of it was kind of dramatized between Camilla, Diana, and there is actually an interesting video on YouTube where it's I think it's a radio interview or something where Diana does talk about the first time she met Camilla, and I don't think it was in a restaurant like was portrayed in the show. So I do think it is. Yeah, I think you're right. It's heavily dramatized.
Yeah.
but I don't think Camilla.
Oh, sorry, you go on, Tim.
I was gonna say I don't think the Camilla character in the program comes across as a gold digger kind of person that just can't wait to get her clutches into the prince, like
Just
a particular other person. But
just
As
the
you were.
woman who has had a thing for Prince Charles her whole dang life.
It's yeah. It's a
I mean,
terrible.
she kept the affair going throughout her whole marriage.
Yeah, yeah, it's a terrible. It's kind of a terrible situation that Charles is in, and I do feel sorry for him for that. You never feel like it excuses the way he treats Diana though, because you can see that Diana's like trying so hard to get his
Yeah.
approval, and she
Yeah.
just never can.
and she's a very young girl.
I know
when she
what
got
that's
involved.
like. I know what it's like to Jones after somebody's approval, and it sucks. It's just rough. And Jake, what were you going to say?
That restaurant thing did happen because there's a picture of him in real life there, but it wasn't the first time they met.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a tragic love story, if anything. I did like the scene, and this did actually happen, and unfortunately, there's not any video where Diana dances to Uptown Girl on the stage at that theatre. That did actually happen, and Charles did probably react that way. In fact, I believe he did.
But see, don't you see that that's kind of a constant misunderstanding they have of each other's motives, because he thinks she's just trying to get attention and you can step on the royals' necks just to get ahead, which she doesn't want to do. She's a simple girl that just was put in this position, I guess, and she's making the best of it. I mean, I don't think the royals ever realized what a star they had on their hands or how popular she was around the world.
Yeah.
I mean, they touched on that a little bit here, but they'll probably really go into that in the next series because she's not looking for that kind of attention. She's trying to do the best job she can, or at least that's the way she's portrayed. And she what they see as missteps is her seeing what she's trying to do to promote the family. So I don't know. That they did a good job of portraying that situation because he constantly gets mad at her for doing what she thinks is I'm doing what what the princess should do. So
Yeah. I do like the Australian tour episode actually, because I think at the beginning, for the first 25 minutes, Charles is finding any excuse to put Diana down because he thinks that she's the one that's fucking up. And then by the end, actually, she's the raving success. She's the headline.
Yeah, and he lost the opportunity to be a real fucking prince and show off his bride and stuff. If you're not gonna actually show off your assets, that the asset of Diana is like the asset of the United Kingdom. It's her. If you allow somebody to shine, you push forward all the people, and that's
Yeah.
just like the cool thing about empowerment, and you see that so well in this show. That those relationships are just so shallow, and that's the difference between Philip and Elizabeth and Charles and Diana. Philip, supports Elizabeth, but Elizabeth uh, doesn't have to lift up Prince Philip to be super shiny because he just you know he, he does it himself. He took it upon himself to do it.
Yeah, meanwhile, Charles just spends all his time being resentful of Diana's success.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
seems like he's so petulant. It just makes me, if he becomes king, it will be like a baby in, in the top job.
if I could just say, I think it's also it shows how much times have changed because Diana was the first one to break that mold, and because you look now at the current princesses, especially Kate Middleton, everybody loves her. I mean, she's been Philip's wife for how many years now? And they have like a baby every 10 minutes.
William, you mean?
But William, yeah, nine
William.
years now. I think they've been married. 9 years.
And so I mean, I don't think William. I mean, I don't think he has a problem with her being as on all the cover of all the magazines and being that popular princess because of the difference in times now. I mean, I think Diana broke that, and the way she's treated, at least in this series, is horrible compared to the way these ones are now. Because I don't think the prince has any problem with that.
Yeah, I think now these
Agreed.
days you've kind of got the contrast of you've got the golden girl princess, which is Kate Middleton. Then you've got the kind of devil, as like the press like to portray her as, Meghan Markle. And in fact, I don't mind Meghan Markle that much. I actually think she's very similarly to Diana, being put into a situation and being forced to lead a life that she doesn't really want to live.
Jake, what do you think about Kate and Megan?
I much prefer Meghan Markle than I do Kate Middleton.
Oh, okay.
And in the same way, I much prefer Prince Harry to Prince William because I think Prince Harry is much more like his mum than Prince William is, 100%. And we need a royal that is like his mum, a people person.
You really can't expect him to be like not his father Charles.
Yeah. Yeah, but I much prefer Harry and Meghan than I do William and Kate.
Okay, that brings up another question that I loved how they answered in this is why isn't Charles more more gusto, and I think it became clear that because he was not able to serve in the Navy as his father had, he didn't have that kind of powerful naval experience that his father had, that he was just like, sick, and he didn't like it, and he was just like, he never served long enough or hard enough to really develop that discipline and esprit de corps.
I think to a great degree as well. I do think that on a kind of character level, Charles is just too um, too kind of emotional in a bad way to be a proper royal. I think he's petulant, as you said. He's whiny. Um, he's a bit. I'm trying to think of the word. He's a bit of
Twat.
He's a twat. Yeah, he's a massive twat. He's a bit of a kind of
Nancy boy.
I described him last week perfectly, and I'm just trying to remember the word I used now. It'll come back to me.
I think that the sister Anne comes across very strong in this story, though.
Yeah, and
she's like the go-to girl if you're looking for advice, because she's forever telling God you're a nonce or whatever. So I was like,
she's so good that I think they underused Erin Doherty. I think she was, in fact, in season 3, I think that she was the best cast role, and Josh O'Connor's perfect as Charles. But yeah, I think Erin Doherty. They missed out a lot to do with Anne as well. I mean, not many will know that in the 70s, Anne was kidnapped, or there was a kidnapped attempt, and someone put a gun to her head, and she just turned around to the gun, to the pistol, and said, "No one kidnaps me. You're not going to get me into that car." They didn't shoot her, obviously, or anything, but that's just how strong she is. Anne's an incredibly.
Bloody hell!
I do like Princess Anne.
I think they did make a good point of showing that her father is very fond of her in that one scene where he runs out to greet her after she does her horse routine so well, and the queen is just like, yeah, let him take care of it. This is the one I think they're talking about favorites, and the queen insists she doesn't have any favorites. By the end, she realized she does, I guess.
Yeah. And it's the worst kind of favorite because it's the worst royal.
So I know that they won't get far enough into the like 20 teens to talk about Andrew's ridiculous lifestyle choices, but the powerful, I mean, it's a powerful indictment of how I mean, he came from being someone's favorite to treating people like that. But anyway,
he is still our favorite.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I mean,
she don't care what he's done.
Yeah, there wasn't much punishment.
I thought he got kicked out of the clan.
He didn't. He didn't really. He was doing royal duties up until early this year. He was really. He was involved even after that car crash interview, which I recommend anyone watch because it's the most hilarious thing ever. He just, she didn't punish him at all. He was kind of sidelined, I think, but he wasn't kicked out of the clan. He's very much protected, unfortunately.
So, what about the car crash that's coming? Do you think that they'll, first of all, are they going to keep the same Diana from these two series?
No,
she's done.
Okay.
The actress is going to be in the next season, though. Peter Thingy said.
Yeah, I think she's going to be in a flashback. I remember reading. It's Elizabeth Debicki now, who's playing Diana.
I still think she's a bit too tall.
Who's a bit too tall, yeah. Elizabeth Debicki is like 6'4". She's huge. She's not Diana's height.
Oh my!
It'd be funny.
But she's a very good actress. We've seen her in quite a few things recently.
Yeah, she is a very good actress. Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah. Anything else? Would you like to do season ratings, or do you want to do whole show ratings?
I,
I'll do.
I just like, sorry.
No, sorry. Go ahead, Tim.
I was just gonna say I think it's just a very well made program. I don't know you if you want to rate the series, you can. I think most would agree that this series was a step up or slightly better than the other three, but they had more interesting things to talk about. And again, it's more on the stuff that we're more familiar with, being in the age we are now,
Yeah.
compared to the early 50s or 40s or whatever, when it's all part of history as we know it. So it's more interesting. I guess it's more interesting to see. I wouldn't say current affairs dramatized, but within recent history. So
Yeah, I think it gets like I think the show overall does get 5 stars from me, with particular mention to season 4 being the best. I think that's probably the best closing thoughts I could.
yeah, and I don't think there's been a dud in the bunch. To be fair, you're gonna have some episodes that are more exciting than others, but I mean, it's an amazing cast. It's amazingly well written and directed, and it hasn't really, descended into like melodrama or kitchen sink type drama. It's been pretty on the nose for the most part.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it too. I really struggle finding like lots of faults in it because of how entertaining it is. We all like a bit of gossip, and what better gossip is there to come from the royal family? Do you know what I mean? Love it.
Yeah.
It's a solid 10 out of 10 for me. But I still prefer season 3 than I do season 4. But they're still both incredibly strong seasons.
Yeah. I'm an addict. A fifth of the crown, and I'm great for the whole week. And it is binge worthy, and it is like super available stream wise, and Netflix does a really really thorough job with it, and um, yeah, so highest praise for me. Super great. And I can't wait for the next. But apparently, it's going to be a bit of a wait. What do they say? The next
It's going to be
season's
2022. No,
2022. Yep.
which is about equal to the wait we got between the end of Foy's ones and the start of Coleman. So
Was the shooting of this particular season affected by COVID? I wonder. Did they have to take a break at some point?
No,
No?
I think luckily they shot 3 and 4 back to back. So
Oh,
this
okay.
ended I think about a week before lockdown.
Wow.
Yeah, so they just got in there, luckily.
Yep.
But they start filming the new ones next July. Imelda Staunton said.
Cool.
Well, can't wait. Thanks guys for joining me. And thank you for watching this podcast. We look forward to seeing you this week. We're going to be reviewing. We are going to be reviewing Star Trek 4 and Ghostbusters 2. We are Geeks Assembled, and also we're going to be reviewing Baffle Gabs, the Wishing Tree. Um, Really great audio adventure. Anyway, so tune into the rest of our channel. Hit your subscribe button. Hit the bell. Please join us because we talk about everything from drama to comedy to horror. As Connor likes most, and weird stuff like Tim likes, and yeah, just it's so great. Let's rejoin your regularly scheduled program, and thank you for watching. Have a great one. God save the Queen.